Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the workshop for Monday, March 23rd. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Trustee Hein.
Here.
Trustee Vito.
Here.
Trustee Kruger.
Present.
Trustee Lang.
Here.
Trustee Brady.
Here.
Trustee Vogel.
Here.
President Argyros.
Here. Thank you. Citizens' concerns and comments.
Members of the general public may address the board with concerns or comments regarding relevant issues. The person submitting a petition, concern, or other comment shall be allotted 5 minutes to present their points and should state their name and address into the record. Paul Maddle.
Phil Mader.
Oh, I'm sorry. Phil, I couldn't read his handwriting. Phil Maddle.
Phil Mader. I live at 85 Center Avenue, and I've been having issues with the airport as far as noise complaints and so forth, and I've talked with Dean, I've talked with Ray Lang, I've talked with a number of people over at the airport board. I've also worked with Rob Mark, who's been doing a fabulous job of answering my questions and trying to help me through this whole process of dealing with the noise at the airport. In the last Chicago Executive Airport meeting that I was at, I had the opportunity to also address the noise issue that I've been having, at which point one of the residents also indicated that she was having an issue with noise. And at that point, after we were finished, Mr. David Kolsak, who was appointed by you, Dean, took it upon himself to say that it might be a good idea if I and other residents took Ambien, which is a sleeping aid, to get through the noise, and proceeded to say that if we didn't like the noise and if the Ambien didn't help, that what we should do is then sell our house and take a bath on the sale of our house, because the stock market goes up, the stock market goes down, people lose money all the time, and that we should move. So I'm a little disturbed by him representing our town. As a citizen, I believe he is of our town. And maybe the 10 years that he's been on the board is maybe a bit much. Maybe he's tired, or I'm not sure. But then in the same meeting, we have a gentleman, Neil Katz, who took the time to ask the board if it was okay to do a preliminary, just off-the-cuff brainstorming idea, coming up with ideas to try to rectify the noise situation, including the tower, the pilots, everybody involved in the airport, which I appreciate greatly. It's a great idea. And again, Neil and Betty Cloud from Prospect Heights declined that idea as a good idea. However, the rest of the board agreed, and so that's proceeding, and he's going to come up with some ideas. I know Ray has worked on situations with, I guess, the senators now, and we're trying to get some relief like O'Hare has. I've worked with Steve Neff, and we've had a meeting regarding noise monitors. Part of the 150 study that was last done at the airport indicates that noise monitors are supposed to be in place, and that they should budget the money to put those in. I know they say they don't have money, but yet there's $9,000 that was recently spent on a Christmas party. I know that David Kolsak's sister-in-law apparently remodeled the facility that they're working on. If there's that kind of money there for those things, I think that somewhere, and I think we're talking in the neighborhood of $17,000 to $30,000, and the money they throw around at that board that I see and hear about seems to be pretty significant, and I think that portion of it seems to be not so bad, and I think that they could somehow come up with some way to be able to start including that and getting that on board so that they can start analyzing some of the situations and what's going on at the airport. That's all.
Trustee Lang, did that happen? Was that set to be?
Yeah, about moving and Ambien,
Yeah.
and that's, to know David, that's the way David is. He he seemed to be a little frustrated that evening for the fact of, and I can't speak for him, but, and I won't, but that's how David is. And he was,
So it was set.
yeah,
That's correct?
yes.
Okay. Wait, can't. Okay. Phil, I apologize on
Yeah.
behalf of the board.
I appreciate your apology. I'd like to hear an apologize
Okay.
from David. That would be nice.
Fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Papantos?
Good evening. Tonight, we're about to hear a discussion for the concept review for the plan unit development for the town center. It is an exciting moment. We have waited years for this to come. Hopefully, the board will go into this with their eyes wide open, that we look to make sure that the town center is the best that it can be, that we'll have plenty of parking for all sites, that we'll remember that green space is an important feature for any town center and for our town as well. And I just want to make sure that we do go into this with our eyes wide open. I also would like to mention that I too was at the airport meeting on March 18th, and that was a direct quote from Mr. Kolsak, and it was rather insulting to every citizen who's there, who takes the time to very quietly stand up and express our concern about the noise at the airport. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Neff?
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. I'm Steve Neff. I live at 193 South Wolf. Also, for the record, I'd just like to express that I think that was very insensitive of Mr. Kolsak. He could do a better job with his PR. I came to speak regarding the noise monitoring. 3 weeks ago, I had an appointment with a field technician from Larson Davis, and this is the same company that does the noise monitoring in all the suburbs around O'Hare Airport. And it just happened to be President Argerish's birthday. And
Yeah, it
by
was.
coincidence, he was at the next table over that very morning.
Yeah.
So I got to learn a little bit about what was going on with noise monitoring. And as it turns out, these systems are very affordable. They could be installed for under $25,000. And you know, then we get an opportunity to gather data, and I would just think that with all the efforts going forward at Chicago Executive Airport with Fly Quiet, it would be awesome for them, you know, just to have some kind of baseline or a measure to see, you know, how many exceedances there are, you know, when other issues could be addressed, if there's, you know, certain months where things are spiking, it gets out of hand. But then also I was thinking, I mean, a great place to locate a noise monitor would be on top of Holmes Middle School. And by doing that, it's right underneath the glide path, and it happens to be right next to my house. I have a handheld monitor, and my handheld monitor, they're coming in at 85. That's really what we're dealing with, 85 decibels to 90 sometimes at the high end. So if we were to put one on the school, why couldn't we make it part of the STEM program and let the kids in the high school actually compile the data sets? There's physics classes, they can learn about sound waves, there's statistics classes. It's a real world application for the kids, and you know, it's a community project, and I just think it would be good for the neighborhood, it would be good for the city. It could be an educational project. We know we're getting, I don't know, on average 7,000 takeoff and landings per month. In the summer, it starts to climb up towards 9,000 takeoffs and landings. If you look at the other suburbs, Mount Prospect already has they have 3 stations, but in surrounding O'Hare Airport, there's 32. You know, I would hope that you guys would also embrace this. I did speak recently at a coffee that held by Carol Sente, our state representative, and at the table were people from the Park District, a teacher from the school, a representative from District 21, and everybody was pretty enthusiastic about it. So I hope we can continue to get some traction with this And hopefully this could be part of the master plan study. The sooner it goes in, the better. We can start getting the data. Perhaps the airport could issue some grant money. That's what my hope. All right, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Steve. John, do me a favor, reach out to Jamie and see where they are on that.
Sure.
Their budget just came out, and maybe talk to Ray and Neil as well. Go ahead, Ray.
Can I add that is part of phase one of the study, is to determine if that's necessary, and so far it seems that it will be. So I think we need to.
But I do remember the Part 150 study, because I was part of the airport back then. And there was, part of the study is to do measuring, monitoring of noise. But back then, they didn't have the money, with FAA, So let's see where we're at on that. Because if we can put, and you know what, tie in the schools, John. We have a good report with District 214, especially with the manufacturing thing. This might be a new STEM project for them. Okay?
Thank you, Dean. We have been working with Wheeling High School and trying to come up with a program that's similar to one that they've undertaken in Woodstock, Illinois, with Woodstock High School.
That's right.
And they're very receptive to that. I've been working with Terry Stylen on that, and so the school's in favor of looking at the project and getting some of the students involved. This might be some other way to do that.
Okay, thanks,
Thank you.
John. And then, John,
I will do that.
At the end of the week, maybe we can get some answers on that. Thanks. Thank you all. Next, staff reports. Chief Benson.
Thank you, President Argyris. I'd like to take this opportunity to warn the motoring public that next Tuesday, the March 31st at 9 a.m., there'll be a planned signal outage at the intersection of Hintz and Wolf Road. ComEd will be replacing the signalization box there, and at that time, the intersection will be controlled by stop signs. So I'd suggest either motorists avoid that intersection or be patient if they go through there. By the end of this week, Public Works will put signage up warning of this outage on next Tuesday, and we'll be releasing a press release. Economic Development is also notifying all the businesses in the area.
How long do you think it'll be out for?
Approximately 6 hours. So it should start shortly after rush hour, and it should end shortly before rush hour. So hopefully it'll go smooth, but I would recommend, if you can avoid that intersection, that's Hintz and Wolf Road, next Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. till approximately 3 p.m.
Okay. Thanks, Chief. Sure. Item 6, Madam Clerk.
Discussion regarding the concept review of Wheeling Town Center planned unit development.
Thank you. Manager Svandelis.
Thank you. I am happy this evening to introduce Brad Friedman for a presentation, officially a concept review. This is a bit unique because normally a concept review is reserved as an introduction to the board about a project. We're talking tonight about the Wheeling Town Center, and that obviously is a project that the board is already aware of. However, our code requires the formality of a concept review, and what that provides for us tonight is an opportunity for Brad to talk about where he is in the project and really introduce some new visuals so that everyone has a better understanding of exactly what this project is going to look like. At the end of the presentation, the request will be for consensus from the board to send the project to the Plan Commission. Depending on how many questions there are this evening, if there are any, that process can begin as early as this Thursday or whenever the requirements are fulfilled in order to move forward. So with that, I'll introduce Brad Friedman and ask that you hold questions until the end of the presentation.
Thanks. Hi, Brad.
Did Andrew have anything to say, or is that later? Okay. Thanks. John did a pretty good job. Yeah, everyone here is very familiar with the Town Center project, and I am here more as a formality, so I can start going through the PUD process and work with the Plan Commission. I know a lot of you have heard a lot about the Town Center. I'm happy to be up here again tonight and go through some more of the specifics regarding the site plan, the architectural design, and the landscape design, and show you some updated renderings as well. We've talked about the concept of the Town Center in detail, about how we are going to create a destination and provide a village green and really put Wheeling on the map with this exciting opportunity. What does a town center experience need in order to be successful? We've talked about the concept of a village green. We've talked about how important it is to have an entertainment component and to be engaging and to maintain an edge and to offer a mix of retail and restaurants and residential uses and offer a wonderful shopping experience where people can congregate and gather. What are some of the benefits to Wheeling? Well, first of all, this site is part of the master plan concept in order to create your downtown. So it will serve as a catalyst to the town of Wheeling for creating the downtown area. We are going to bring in an entertainment component with Flix, which is going to generate a good amount of traffic, and combined with the Village Green is going to serve as a landmark that is essentially going to become part of the fiber of the community. And because of the contributions from the village, we are going to be able to provide quality design and construction elements that will really enhance the Village Green and other components of this project. We have a residential component, 295 units, and we will be marketing that to some of the young professionals who are affiliated with the nearby corporations, along with some empty nesters and divorcees. People want to rent now by choice because they like the maintenance-free lifestyle, the flexibility of renting versus owning, and because we will have so many renters at this facility, they will have discretionary income. They will be able to go out to the restaurants and support the community. And also, it's right next to the Park District facility, which is wonderful. So they'll be able to utilize the indoor basketball court, the indoor swimming pool, everything that Heritage Park has to offer. So they will also be supporting a lot of those facilities as well. The site is next to a train station, and that is a wonderful thing because we know that the real estate journals, publications, bankers, and institutional investors all want to put their money into transit-oriented developments. It is best bet for investors 5 years in a row. People we know want to live where the action is. They want to be able to walk to the restaurants and the entertainment components. They want to be able to walk to get their cup of coffee and do their yoga. And we've been told that by 2030, a quarter of all households are likely to live near transit high-density housing. If there's an opportunity for a downtown area to put together a town center concept that it revolves around a transit-oriented development, they are going to take advantage of it. And it is going to pay off because historically, the rental rates, the occupancy rates that you receive from the residential tenants and the retail tenants exceeds expectations and other comparable projects. RTKL, who has been the architect on this project since day one, just completed a transit-oriented development in Orland Park called 9750 on the Park. This project is very similar to what we plan to provide from the residential standpoint. It's a 5-story residential building. It has a nice amenity package with a courtyard and a pool. The difference is that this project had a garage that would split the courtyard into 2 areas. It would be an open garage. We are proposing a fully enclosed wrapped garage, which gives us a larger courtyard and that larger amenity space. And then the amount of units that have a view of the courtyard then increases, and those are the units that demand the highest rents. RTKL also just finished up the Roosevelt Collection in Chicago, another mixed-use, transit-oriented development with residential units, retail, and a movie theater component as well. Myself, I just finished up on the Catalyst project we've talked about before, downtown in the near West Loop at Washington and Des Plaines, 19-story building, 223 luxury rental units with the Walgreens on the ground floor. We just had our grand opening in October. Our occupancy is actually above 80% now. We have wonderful amenities, a rooftop pool, patio area, club room, a fitness area, yoga on demand, conference center, barbecue stations, pergolas. It's a wonderful facility. My financial partners in New York, the Goldstein family, is a wonderful organization to have supporting this project. They've been around for a number of years, and they get involved in every type of real estate development, from hotels to multifamily, shopping centers, office buildings, and they're currently doing a very exotic boutique condominium hotel in the British Virgin Islands on Anguilla. They're involved in management, ownership, operations. Total value of their projects that they've developed is $1.3 billion. They are very committed to the Wheeling Town Center. They love the transit-oriented development. They love the theater as an anchor and the Village Green and everything about it. This slide right here is the entire reason why I chose to develop this site. When I met with Demetrius Stavrianos from RTKL years ago, he showed me a number of projects that he was working on, and I picked this site to develop because of this slide right here. It's next to the train station, it's next to Village Hall, it's got the built-in municipal campus, we're next to the Park District facility and Heritage Park. It just lends itself to a wonderful town center development, and I believe in the site. So we've got a little over 16 acres. We are proposing 295 units, about 100,000 square feet of retail. The parking, we have added a level to this parking deck right here. So this is now a 6-story parking deck, and that will provide parking for the residents, visitors, and it will also provide parking for the employees of Flicks and the other retail establishments. In addition to that, we have 730 surface parking spaces, which will support the retail and the entertainment components. The unit mix, we have a good amount of focus on 2-bedroom units. We've found that through our market studies, a lot of the new construction apartment projects used to be focused on 1-bedroom units, and there's always a shortage of 2-bedroom units, so we have increased that. We now have 50% of our units for 2-bedroom, 40% for 1-bedroom, and then we have 5% studios and 5% 3-bedrooms. The range is going to be anywhere from 660 square feet for your studio to 1,350 square feet for a larger 3-bedroom. And our projected rental rates are at about $2 a square foot. Based on our feasibility report and based on my visits to competing apartment projects, I am extremely comfortable with that number. I just want to take a moment and let everyone know that I don't rely solely on feasibility reports. I personally go out to every new construction apartment building and I visit them and I tour them as though I am a potential renter, so I understand how they break down their unit mix, what's available, what's selling, what's not selling, and what their price per square foot is. The town center experience. So we've talked about this a number of times, how we want to provide a wonderful outdoor dining experience that plays off of the Village Green, offers the community shopping and entertainment, and at the end of the day, we are really going to put Wheeling on the map with this project, and we're going to provide a family-friendly town center that provides the community with that retail shopping experience that also brings in the entertainment component and the residential component. We've talked a lot about Flicks and how important it is to have an entertainment component anchor the site, and that all of the real estate journals say in order to be successful, you have to maintain an edge. You have to bring in that entertainment component, and Flicks is the edge. They are the cool theater. Here are some of the preliminary elevations that I'm working on with the architects. These are preliminary. I am working with Matt Silvers over at Flicks Brewhouse to refine these. This is their typical freestanding facility. This facility is going to incorporate some additional components. We talked about bringing in an outdoor area to play off of the village green, and they are going to work with us and provide us with updated elevations as we work through the process. These are just conceptual, but it gives you a good idea of the flicks. I actually happen to think that the perspective is a more realistic rendering that gives everyone a better idea, but I know this is a formality and elevations are required, so we have provided those. We've also provided some elevations for the speculative retail, what we call Building E. This is a good time for me to take a time out and explain to everyone on the board that we are not building spec retail here. We are building retail pads as they get leased up and as there's demand from retail tenants. And every retail tenant that comes in is going to provide us with their specifications on how they want their pad built out. What we see here are elevations that RTKL has worked on in the past, and it shows you how we can take a building and give it some different facade so it doesn't look like one long continuous building. For example, Starbucks has already given us their site plan, they've already given us their schematics, so we know what to expect. So we have provided this perspective based on their drawings. We've also put together some of the elevations, again, because that is required by the code. Here's a preliminary elevation of our residential building. There's a lot of detail that went into this elevation. The architects at RTKL want to make sure that this shows very well. And this area right here, this is where the village green is going to be. And I have told them that this entrance needs to be monumental. And if I am putting money into this project, if I am putting money into this building, then this is the area that I want to have as a focus. Because when people go to the village green, this is going to be the marketing window that they see. The residential building, as we've talked about, is going to cover a large footprint. It's going to wrap around the parking structure, so there will be no unsightly views of a cold, dark parking garage. This is very common for new construction projects. It is very economical, very efficient. It allows renters to park their car and walk right into their unit where they are renting. These are a lot of continuous elevations that have been provided by RTKL, and we're going to work on distinguishing the different components so there are different color tones and materials that are used so it doesn't look like one long continuous building. This is the first floor typical plan, which I believe most of you have seen. So again, here's the parking garage, and we have wrapped it with the residential units, and then we have achieved this very large courtyard area, which will have a pool. We're going to bring in a bocce ball court, barbecue stations, a pergola. We might even have a putting green, some ping pong tables. It's really going to help provide these residents with their own little community. In addition to that, this is where the village green is going to be. And the idea is that when people come to the restaurants and the theater and are hanging out in the village green, they're going to see the entrance to this residential building. And it is going to be very inviting. They're actually going to think that there are retail components here at the edge. They're going to think that there's a cafe or there's like a private health club. It's going to be part of the residential building, but it's all going to fit in with the energy and the style and the vibe that we are trying to create. So when people are hanging out on the village green, they're going to say, oh my gosh, I got to go look at that building. And they're going to walk in, and this is going to be a very large open space. And that's where we're going to have our amenities. We're going to have the club room, and it's going to lead right out to this courtyard area. It's going to be very inviting. This is a typical floor plan for levels 2 through 5, showing the mix of the 1 bedrooms and the 2 bedrooms. We've done some preliminary landscape studies. I know that green space is very important. We are going to be providing a green space with the village green but we also have to keep in mind that it has to handle pedestrian traffic, so we are going to bring in a lot of ornamental pots and planters. This is the preliminary landscape plan that you see here, and we will be bringing in trees throughout the parking lot area as well. The town square, as I have talked about, we want it to be a family-friendly environment. We want it to provide additional outdoor seating for the restaurants. We want to make it a place where people can come, hang out, sit down outside, eat their lunch, congregate, and gather. We realize that Heritage Park is right next door, and that there are going to be soccer games that let out, and everyone's going to want to rush over and hang out at the town center and have ice cream or their smoothies. Or the baseball league is going to finish up at night and they're going to want to come over and have burgers and beers. And that is exactly what we are trying to achieve here with the town center and the village green that we are providing. I talked about the outdoor dining experience, bringing in the brick pavers, providing some sort of green lawn play area, introducing a lot of ornamental pots and planters, and providing pergolas and nice lighting and sculptures to really enhance the feel of the town center. The residential courtyard, as I have talked about, we plan on bringing in a pool area, a bocce ball court, a lounge area where the residents can enjoy lots of leisurely activities as well, as they are all mentioned here. These are, again, preliminary plans. And that will conclude my portion of the presentation. I know there are going to be a lot of questions. I've brought with me tonight Anthony Fazzolo from RTKL to help address any issues regarding the architectural elements, building materials, the site plan, and I've brought Steve Corcoran from Erickson Engineering, my traffic and parking study guru. With that, President Argyris.
I'll open it up. How's that? Trustee Lang?
Thank you. No, we've talked about this plan for quite a long time, and I'm excited to see it go to the next process, PUD process. But just to start out with, I think all of us are concerned about parking. At least I know I am concerned that we make sure that there's enough parking on this site. You know, we have a situation with the Westin where it's a good problem. It's always filled, but after a while, you know, something's got to be done about it. So I know you added that additional level, which is good, and you will park employees in there. How will the village lots, the Metro lots, be incorporated into this?
The Metro lots are already incorporated into the site plan. So we are under obligation to provide 292 parking spaces to Metro based on the reciprocal parking agreement. However, currently their demand is only 100 vehicles. And the reciprocity between the Monday through Friday commuter parking versus the times that the entertainment component, the Flicks Brewhouse and the other restaurants are going to demand parking is very harmonious. If you wanted to take a deeper look into the numbers and the timing, I could always have Steve address some of that. But the important thing to know is that Matt Silvers from Flicks Brewhouse has seen the parking study and he has seen the site plan. He should be more concerned about parking than anybody here because it will affect his business. And he has told me that he believes that our site plan provides ample parking.
And currently, there's a fee to park in the Metro lot. How will that play in?
That is something we're going to have to work out, but the concept is to allow the village to charge commuters for parking Monday through Friday up until 11 a.m. And the village would take on the responsibility of however they want to manage that process. Because that is, I'm not going to collect income on that. The village is going to collect income on that. So the village is going to have the opportunity to collect that money and manage that component. Whether it's a pay box or something you hang in your car, you know, that's up to you guys.
Well, And typically, I think Arlington Heights had issues like that with paying for their downtown, and it didn't go over too well. So they're, you know, I don't believe.
There's no free parking.
You park in their garage, you pay to park in.
Oh, for Arlington Heights?
Yeah.
Right, for the Metro commuters?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it matters where you are. If you want to park at a Metro commuter lot, you gotta pay. It's usually $1.50 a day is the going rate.
And then you talked earlier about getting folks into this center and really, you know, bringing them in off the road and how, describe what your monument sign.
Do you mean retail tenants or do you mean like customers?
Customers.
Okay.
Customers.
Well, I guess it's twofold. The customers are going to come because of the retail mix. And what we have is we have an unbelievably strong anchor tenant in Flick's Brewhouse. The entertainment component is the traffic generator. It's really difficult for retail centers to survive. It's constantly changing. 10 years ago, or not even, maybe it was 5 years ago, no retail tenant would enter into a shopping center unless they had a Barnes & Noble. Obviously, that's not the case anymore. So the world is constantly changing in terms of what the focus is and what the traffic generator is. But the one thing that we know is that people still like to go out to the movies because it's relatively inexpensive. The reason why Flicks is going to survive versus some of the other theaters, not only does it have the food and beverage concept, they brew their own beer on site, and when you go there, you're not spending $10 on popcorn and soda. You're spending $4 for a beer and $12 for a burger, and that's what you spend for a burger and a beer when you go to a restaurant. So they don't feel like they're getting ripped off. And that's how Flicks makes their money. All of these theaters, they have to give 80% of their revenue from ticket sales to the studios. So the only way that they can really capture the money is off of the sale of their, food and beverage. So that's why all these other guys are charging $10 for popcorn and soda. Flicks doesn't have to do that. And they get over 50% of their income is generated from the sale of food and beverage and beer.
And then lastly, I'd just ask is, will there be nice sight lines off the train? Because that's a captive audience. If you take the rail, there's no good sight lines anywhere on that rail from here to Chicago. I don't know about going north, but once you get to this project, it'll be amazing how it'll pop out as something exciting and new.
Yeah, you know what? That's a really good point. As far as the residential building goes, you will have a view of the residential building. As far as the retail goes, it is going to be the back of Flicks. There will be signage, so you will know that it's a Flicks Brewhouse. I don't think you're going to have a view of the Village Green from the tracks. I'm not sure about that. I'll have to look into it. If there's some way that we can reconfigure the site so there is visibility of the Village Green from the tracks, I think that would be wonderful, and I will look into that with my architects.
Well, even the appearance of the back of the building would go a long way.
I mean, they'll definitely see that there's a town center there. For the most part, it will be, the back of the buildings, but the way that we have this plan, there's a lot of buildings that will probably incorporate, I'll just use this slide as an example. Okay, so here's the train, so here's the back of the Flicks, here's the residential building, and then up here, these retailers are kind of unique. They might have a double entrance because they might have an entrance off here, off Northgate, Community Boulevard, and they might have an entrance back here that plays off of the parking field as well. So they probably will want some sort of advertising frontage, so to speak, that does then, offer visibility from the train. So
that's all the questions I have now. Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Vogel?
My biggest concern is parking. I like the whole concept. I like the fact that you're finally here with a plan
I just asked my general contractor what it would cost to add a 7th level. If we do add a 7th level, my thought is that we have to go below grade. That unfortunately does cost extra money. So I will look into it. You know, I just want to let everyone know that I know parking is a concern here with the Village of Wheeling because of the Weston and some other projects. So I'm relying on the report from my traffic engineer, my parking engineer, and based on the charts that he has provided to say that we have ample parking. I'm also relying on the fact that this is a transit-oriented development, and the parking standards that Wheeling has currently, 2.0 per rental unit, is not in line with the U.S. Census Bureau, and is also not in line with transit-oriented developments, is also not in line with new construction apartment buildings that are happening in the surrounding communities, including Arlington Heights, Buffalo Grove, Deerfield, Glenview, and Northbrook. All of these new, and none of those, by the way, are transit-oriented developments, and they're all at a parking ratio that is well below the 2.0 per unit. So I understand why you want a lot of parking here. I also want you to keep in mind that this is a transit-oriented development and that the initiative on a global level in order to achieve LEED certification doesn't tell you to build maximum parking. It does the exact opposite. It tells you to be very efficient with your parking. That's why I have hired the parking engineer to run those numbers. Now, if there's something that we need to do in order to work together to come up with the right balance, then we will do that. But I also want to ask everyone to keep an open mind as to what the other projects are doing, what the U.S. Census Bureau suggests, and what my traffic or my parking engineer requests.
Did you say you were going to update the parking study?
The parking study has been updated.
Has been, as of?
What was that, Thursday of last week? Yes.
Okay, so it's very recent. Has anybody,
Yeah.
John, can we check into some of these other communities, like Deerfield, by the train station there? I've been in and out of those communities, and Deerfield especially, you see people going around the block 3, 4, 5, 6 times for parking around the downtown area, the residential area. And Arlington Heights, I lived over there for like 3 months at one point a couple years ago with a job I had over there, and had a hell of a time parking. Ended up parking in the Village Hall parking lot, their garage there, and we had to pay, by the way, for the Village Hall parking lot, and I was working for the village at the time doing some work, and it just seemed like that was also very crowded during the weekdays. So,
We absolutely will. We'll get the comparables and make sure all that is presented not only to the Plan Commission, but once the recommendation comes back to the board as well.
okay, thanks. That was my biggest concern. Other than that, I think it looks great.
Thank you.
Hope we get rolling quick.
Trustee Brady?
Thank you. With this commuter parking versus shopping center parking and residential parking, that's going to be hard to separate. What's going to stop somebody from just parking in the shopping area and getting on a train? You have no way to tell. Plus, if the shopping center does get busy and there's no parking in the shopping center, does it park in the train lot? I think you guys have to work that out somehow.
Well, they will be allowed to park in the commuter area after 11 a.m.
After 11?
Yeah, and that's actually been agreed to with Metro. And as long as it's okay with you guys and the Plan Commission, then Metro's okay with it because they know that by, I think it's 9:50 a.m., they are at like 90% capacity or 95% capacity, which is to say that they're at 95% capacity of their current demand, which is about 100 cars. So.
Okay, and well, as far as especially the apartment building, I'd like, see some very durable finishes on that. We just have redone our codes pertaining to finishes, and some things are allowed, but something that's going to last 50 years without any maintenance, believe me.
I'm not sneaking anything by Fire Chief McIsaac, I know that.
Good, good. And the only other thing too is we talked about it as much ourselves on a different subject about the traffic right there in Northgate and Dundee. You know, you get your project going, the other guy down the street in north, you'll get his project going, and plus all the industrial factories and the people that live in that area. It's going to be an awful big traffic jam. Have you done studies on?
Steve actually is in the process of updating the traffic study, so we will be able to address that further down the road as we go through the PUD process. I know the big backup is because of the train, crossing, leading to backup. I'm like from 4:30 to 6:30. The only positive is that a lot of this town center will be nights and weekends. So when people are exiting this facility after dinner, after the movie gets out, that's not the same time when there's a backup on Dundee because of the train crossing and those rail gates being down.
Are you moving the main entrance to the east from where it's at now?
We are not moving the main entrance. We are reconfiguring Northgate Parkway, but and we are doing an update to the intersection, working with IDOT. And again, that is something that Steve and Erickson is working on. But we're not actually shifting the actual entrance. We're just making modifications.
I think that's about all I had on this, other than the fact that it's been a long time. Of course, you're not unique in the fact that it's taken this long because nobody's been building this past 4 or 5 years, but I think you're at the starting gate now, and I'd like to see it get going.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you. Trustee Vito?
I listened to the presentation, and one thing I was concerned with is you said that we're going to build on those pads as the demand comes in?
Correct.
And there's 9 of them?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, so what happens if the demand doesn't come in and say you get 3 of them done? What happens to the other 6? What do we do with them?
The village will not convey them unless we are at 70% leased. So the village retains ownership of those retail pads.
But we have a concept here where we have a cinema and then we have a greenway, and then if you look at, if you can get the plan,
No problem.
plan on the screen.
Yep.
If you're coming in from Northgate Parkway here and you have the cinema to your left, you have the greenway, I mean, what's going to be in these pads on the outliers if they don't get filled? I mean, is it going to be a concrete slab? I mean, what's going to be there in the interim? Say if it takes 2 years, 3 years to get somebody in there.
Okay, so it's a really good question. I'm glad you brought it up. So it's important that when you have a project that's as complex as this, that you incorporate phasing strategies. It's recommended by all the real estate journals and bankers and institutional equity partners, okay? You need to maintain flexibility in the project. It's also important to remember that a project of this magnitude, as it evolves and as we get closer to putting a shovel in the ground and showing everyone that Flix is really coming, we will get more and more interest. So right now we have a bunch of soft LOIs that we have collected over the years, okay? A good example is when we first started marketing this project, we got an LOI from Dunkin' Donuts for this outlot here at $30 a square foot. We currently have an LOI from Starbucks at $42 a square foot. As we get closer and closer to groundbreaking, the retail tenants will come knocking on the door because everybody wants exclusivity for their particular use. Whether it's a bar and grill or a movie theater or a Starbucks or some kind of frozen yogurt smoothie concept. There can be only one, and there's tons of interest, and everybody wants to have the frozen yogurt right next to the movie theater. And we will be in a position to make sure that we get the best retail tenant who's willing to pay and be a part of the project. We have a lot of interest from local restaurateurs who want to open up concepts here, and we are waiting to find the right mix of retailers that are going to be here. I am confident, as well as my financial partners in New York and the bankers that I work with are very confident in the ability to lease up this project and have a full town center based on the fact that we are next to a train, we have a built-in audience of 295 units that's going to have 500-plus people living there, and that we have a cool, authentic movie theater that brews their own beer on site. So it's a legitimate concern. I do not think it's going to be a problem. I feel like this pad right here is going to, this pad right here has already attracted interest from a number of different local restaurateurs. This pad right here is going to be very traditional inline. We're going to probably have some restaurants in these buildings here that also play off of the Village Green. We have an LOI for this building here because they like the visibility from Dundee Road. The outlots, I am not worried about it at all. We have Starbucks here. I think we could bring in a bank or maybe a Potbellies or something. There's not that much retail. When you look at the Glen Town Center, and I don't want to compare myself to the Glen, but that's a big project. They had a lot of square footage to fill. We have 100,000 square feet. You take away the movie theater, you're talking about 60,000 square feet. I know 60,000 square feet is still a lot of retail, but we are going to be able to fill it.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, that's obviously the hope and the desire. I hope there's a contingency plan. If we don't, that we're not just leaving. I don't know what's going to be there in the interim. If it takes a couple of years, I mean, that'd be great if you get them all leased up in a couple days or a couple weeks or even a year. But I mean, the reality is it might not go that way, and I'm just hoping that there's something to shift the design concept, or at least to fill that space if something does go bad, because this is real estate, this is commercial development. Not everything goes the way you want it to, unfortunately, and a lot of times it doesn't. So I just hope that you keep in mind to have some contingency plans if something doesn't get leased up the way we think it's going to.
All right, well, you and I can brainstorm
Fair enough.
with the architects and try and come up with solutions that you think address that.
Well, one other concern I had was, I mean, I echo what Trustee Vogel was saying. I mean, I fear that there's a little bit of dependency on the fact that this is a commuter-oriented development, that there may not be a lot of use for parking, but I think the reality is even the people that are using the train, the young professionals who are using it to go downtown, they're still going to have cars. I mean, this is Wheeling. They're not going to be able to take the L to Target on a Sunday. They're going to want to park.
I'm not saying that they're not going to want to have a car.
Right.
But you got to take your ratios and be realistic. Because the average renter in Wheeling has 1.3 vehicles. So why would we be providing 2.0 spaces per unit? It just doesn't make any sense.
Fair enough. I hear what you say. I just
Again, I'm just going off of the numbers that were provided to me. This is not my field of expertise.
Right.
So I have to rely on the experts that are doing the study and the analysis.
But you're right. You understand where we're coming from with the Westin, and we have a little bit of trigger shyness on parking here. So
yeah,
we don't want to. We're once bitten, twice shy on that issue. So I'm glad you understand where we're coming from. Thanks.
Trustee Krueger?
Thank you. Brad, you've heard from my colleagues about parking, so I'm not going to belabor it, except that in my packet, it mentioned that commercial parking was 1,122 stalls, and that the plan provided for 823, but I did see some different numbers in your presentation, so I'm wondering why there's the difference between what...
I think that just might be in terms of the way that it's broken up. Where we're, at one point you're looking at combined numbers of residential and commercial.
Right.
At one point you're looking at surface parking. It's a complex structure. I know that. We have 730 surface parking spaces plus, 590 for the parking garage.
What I have says 823 stalls, 730 surface, and 93 commercial in the residential garage.
Okay, so it's 730 surface parking spaces plus 93 spaces in the parking deck that will service the retail. Those 93 parking spaces, in reality, are going to surface the employees, and whatever is remaining will be utilized by the valet service that we will have on Friday and Saturday night, because that is where the peak demand is.
Okay. And all these numbers that were given to me still shows an over 30% deficiency in matching our code. And like my colleagues have said, that scares me.
I think a lot of that is based on the residential requirement of the 2.0 per unit, and we are at around 1.6. So again, that's where there's a gap, because to require 2.0 spaces per rental unit next to a train station, where every other development is at 1.7, and they're not even next to a train station, really, guys, I think you got to keep an open mind as to what is realistic. The whole idea of having a transit-oriented development is because we are trying to be more green. And you also have to think about the fact that because you have 500 people living in that residential building, they're not taking their car to the restaurant or the movie theater. So that accounts for a lot of the customer base, along with what's going on right across the street at Northgate Crossings. But, I mean, if there are more specific questions, I'd really have to defer to Steve, and he'd be happy to step up here and address.
No, I just want you to be conscious of it.
Listen, if we have to make a change, then we'll make a change, okay? I'm not that stubborn. I'm just asking that you be realistic in your requirements and that you take into consideration what every other development in the area is doing, what their parking ratios are at, and what the U.S. Census Bureau suggests. And the whole concept of where we are globally as not as a community, but as a world, trying to rely less and less on our vehicles. I know for a fact when I go out a lot of times, I will not take my car anymore. I'll just take an Uber. But I know a lot of people don't do that. So I want to build a town center that is going to be efficient and provide ample parking, but I also don't want to provide an abundance of parking where it's not efficient. And I just, you know, it's an open discussion, and I'm happy to make changes to the plan where it's necessary.
Well, I think our plan commission will be very thorough. So when
I'm sure they will.
When you guys go through to them,
They better be.
they will. I
hear them laughing in the back there.
And the market study, that information also had some differences in it. That the study assumes 128,000 square feet of retail, while the plan shows just under 100,000 square feet.
Right.
Why the change?
Because of parking.
There we go.
Well played.
So the 128,000 square feet assumed that we were going to have office on the second story of Building E and Building H.
That's right.
I really did want to bring in second story office space because these town center projects that incorporate office space on the second level tend to do very well. But from a density standpoint, if we need to cut back, that's where I'm going to cut back. Because those are, the second story office space is the least profitable in terms of what you can get for rent on the ground level versus what you can get for rent on the second level. There's a big gap. So if we're going to cut anything out, it's going to be the second level story of office space.
Got it. Love the presentation. Was glad to see more elevations. Can't wait to see even more elevations. But
I'm hoping that I can get some more elevations for you. So we're still making modifications to this one, but once they have it in their CAD system, we'll be able to generate some additional renderings for you.
fair enough. Thank you.
Trustee Hein?
Thank you. What's your timeline on you're going to be starting the residential as the #1 project, correct? Start doing
The
retail?
goal is to break ground in December and start construction on the residential project, which is 18 months, and start construction on the Flicks Brewhouse shortly thereafter. So the Flicks Brewhouse and the first portion of the residential building come to the market at the same time.
Clarify that, Brad.
Okay.
December 15th, what? And what are you building?
Okay, so we have to come to the closing table with financing in place for the residential building and the Flicks.
By?
6 months after we get final PUD approval.
Okay.
There's some other items that are mentioned in the RDA, but to simplify it, that's the deadline. So that would, technically, that would be February, but we're not going to sit around and wait. We're already talking to banks and equity partners on financing. So we're hoping that once the site is entitled, we can work on closing documents, which is usually 2 to 3 months. So the idea is that we can close in December, break ground in December, start construction on the residential project. 8 months later, we would start construction on the Flicks Brewhouse. Flicks Brewhouse only takes 8 months to build and then 2 months to put in the FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. That's something that Flicks handles. The idea then is that the first portion of the residential building that comes to the market is open at the same time that the Flicks opens.
Okay. I'm sorry, Bill.
No problem. Okay. This is a wonderful concept. We've been working with you for a number of years now, and we're getting down to a point now where we're actually going to see this thing really happen. And one of the biggest fears I have of putting this project together is parking. We really don't know. You say that we're too strict in requiring 2 units, 2.0 per dwelling or whatever, and with our commercial, so on and so forth. But you got to remember something. We have 2 very successful commercial developments in this community, one being the Westin Hotel Complex and one being the Fresh Farm Complex. And both of them are doing extremely well. Okay? And I wish that happens to you. They are both asking us for help in parking because they don't have enough parking. I want to make darn sure, okay, this is something totally new, this type of a concept, and quite frankly, I don't think you have enough parking. And the numbers aren't going to come out right because you're saying that 335,000 people, that's the numbers that you have in your report to us, 335,000 people will be coming to the brewery and theater a year. Those aren't my numbers, those are in your report, okay? Plus the people that are going to be using the transit station to get on the train. And they're all coming down Northgate Parkway, okay? I don't think you have enough parking because what's going to happen is there's only 107 people on average using the parking for the metro station now on the east side of the tracks. They go to the west side of the tracks because they come from the west side. They come from, most of the people that use our train station are coming in from that area. Once this thing is built and we're creating a destination, those people are going to want to get on the train, park their car in their development here, okay, and walk to the train station. And the other side, the west side of the tracks, that parking lot is going to be 107 over there. So I think when you take all the numbers in consideration, you take all the ideas and so on and so forth, if you're going to have a Starbucks there and you're going to have this theater there, and I know it's going to be successful, and you've got all the people living in your apartment building, okay, you're going to need more parking. So I would be very, very sure on your numbers to make sure you're right, because I sure wouldn't want anybody living in your complex that won't be renting there anymore because there's no parking. Okay?
I don't want that either.
Okay. The next thing is, as you said, the focal point is the green space and the courtyard.
The village green.
You got it right
Yeah.
here on the monitor. And it shows that, is this actual going to be looking like this with the theater having their sign there?
So actually, the way it is, the sign kind of comes out from this view on an angle. So I had the rendering switch it, so it would show up that you could see it's a Flick's Brew House, but normally it would be on an angle, so we cheated a little bit.
Because your entrance to the theater is on the other side of the building.
No, that's not correct. The entrance is just past the signage.
Okay.
In front of the village green.
Okay. Okay, next question. The elevations that you showed us this evening on your apartment complex, the residential, is that the elevations that you're going to be showing to the planning commission?
Those are preliminary elevations.
Are those the ones that you're going to be showing to the planning commission?
I believe so, Anthony? Yes.
Okay. When you say they're preliminary, what do you have to add to them?
We are still going through the schematic design stage, meeting with structural engineers and general contractors, going over materials and costs.
Other than structural, I'm looking for more cosmetic than anything. Is that?
If you want, I have asked the architects to engage in some variations of colors to break up the building. So from that standpoint, the rendering could change, but in terms of building materials, we are still going through that process.
Okay. Hang on a second. It's very hard to visualize from your material that you've given us and the site plan that you have here when we don't have footage on here and we don't know the exact sizes and so on and so forth. It makes it quite hard. Just looking at this, I have some serious problems with some of the radiuses that you have on these streets relative to large vehicles going in and servicing this and being able to service the different retail levels here and the fire department getting in and out. Have you been before the fire department? Have you been working with our fire department?
Yes, I've met with Fire Chief McIsaac many times, and we've discussed the site plan and turning radius requirements, and we have very wide streets to accommodate his fleet.
Chief, I'll have it now.
Real quick.
Yes, we've met multiple times with the developer. We've worked out turning radiuses. The developer has been very cooperative, and actually it has resulted in the elimination of actually several parking spaces to meet our needs. He's also worked with us for secondary access to the site coming off of the Park District side of the property as well through a combination walkway fire lane.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple things, Brad. When do you plan on going to the Plan Commission if you get the conceptual approval this evening?
Thursday, if we can start from a conceptual standpoint, and then work our way into preliminary. The requirements for conceptual are very broad, and as we get into preliminary, there's a lot more that is required from a civil engineering, structural, material, landscaping component, and we want to get moving as quickly as possible.
And let me ask you, you've met with the Park District? I see Larry's in the audience.
I've met with the
And you having good dialogue with the Park District? Because
I believe we have, Larry.
You're still talking. Right, Larry? Okay. I know there's some concerns on their end as well, I'm sure. We talk a lot about parking. because like trustee Hein and my fellow trustees here had mentioned, parking's been an issue on places that have been successful in this community, which is, again, a good problem to have. Mine's a little bit more than that. Mine is about congestion, big time. We have congestion now. It's been a concern of mine since you and your father came here 3 years ago. That, to me, it's.
I'm just saying he's not my father.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought he was. Oh, I thought it was. I'm sorry. I need to be corrected. Well, you guys look alike. Anyway. But anyway, you're associate. But you know what? It's always been a problem of mine because the congestion is an issue. And with your traffic consultants here, beyond the parking within the project, I need you guys to look at the problems outside of that project. Because you won't have a parking problem. If people can't get there, they're not going there. Period. That's a major concern of mine. The configuration on Northgate Parkway, we brought that up a couple of weeks ago. I've talked with staff, ongoing with staff. They're looking at some ideas too. Maybe you guys could share that. If we need to reach out to our friends at IDOT, we need to do that as well. Because if this is going to be successful, we need easy access in and out of that complex. And it's got to work with the Park District because of the magnitude of their projects over there and what's going on at Heritage Park. I'm really concerned about this. I really am, and I always have been. So I'll ask for a consensus with the board just to make it official that that we want to see it get to the next level, going to the Plan Commission. And I'll start with Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
I don't think it's ready yet. No.
Okay. Trustee, well, again, it's conceptual. So, Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Myself, yes. So, let's see what happens. But please work on the traffic issues.
Sounds like parking is the #1 concern, and
Getting to the parking is the #1 concern.
I'll work with you guys on anything that's needed to make this project a success.
Work with our staff, please. Thanks.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Official communication, I'll start with Trustee Vito.
I'm just looking forward to seeing this thing get underway. I mean, I think it's going to transform the town once it's up and running. I'd like it to be a destination. I think it will be, so it's good to see we're moving forward, and let's keep it going.
Anything else you want to add? Is there anything else, official communication? Anything else?
No.
you want to add? Okay. Trustee Vogel?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Trustee Brady?
Just one question. As long as people are going to be walking, they will have a place to park. What's the status of our crosswalk plan that we talked about several months ago, and we were supposed to get a report on what's happening with it?
IDOT has not responded to numerous requests, one as recently as last Wednesday or so. We spoke about it today at staff. Our next move is to go over the head of the person that we are usually using as our contact person, and that's our plan, because we've not gotten a response from IDOT 6 months.
Plan, the recommendation for the crosswalk to actually be a signal over near Wheeling Avenue, that was probably sent to them mid-December. So the actual document went to them in December, and we haven't heard since then.
There were several other areas too that were included in that. In general, the whole process, because with the studies that we've been doing on biking and everything else along with it, pedestrian friendly, not very pedestrian friendly when you have to walk 6 blocks to cross the street by a light. And we have a lot of areas that's exactly what happens. And I just hate to see somebody get hurt because the state is holding this damn thing up. We should be able to put a crosswalk where we know we need them. That's all.
Huh? No. That's it, Ken?
That's it.
Okay. Trustee Lang?
Just quick question about the utility poles out here. When are they going to be removed, the old ones? Do we have any idea? Looks like everything's off of them.
I don't know the schedule. John, do you know the schedule?
No, we don't actually have a schedule, but they should be down any day now.
Thank you.
Trustee Hein?
Nothing this evening.
Thank you. Trustee Kruger?
I have nothing, thank you.
Clerk Simpson?
Early voting started today.
It did.
Yes, it did, and it's going through April 4th, and you can due early for voting at Arlington Heights Village Hall and at Northbrook. Those are the two closest locations. And it's Monday through Friday from 9 to 5 and Saturday from 9 to 5. Arlington Heights Village Hall is located at 33 South Arlington Heights Road, and the Northbrook Village Hall is 1225 Cedar Lane. Also, this coming Wednesday, we will have at the Wheeling Historical Society the history of the Wheeling Police Department presented by Officer Doreen Swanson. It's at Wheeling Park District Community Church, 251 North Wolf Road. It starts at 6:30. The event is free, and there's free refreshments sponsored by the Wheeling Historical Society.
Great. Anything else?
That's it.
Sure.
Yeah, why?
I just wondering.
Do I need something else? I don't know.
Just,
Okay.
Clerk's Corner. It's all good stuff. John?
Now I'm afraid to say that I have nothing this evening.
Oh, good. It gives me more time because I got plenty. Just a couple of things. I wanted to make an announcement. There's an area-wide job fair that's being held Wednesday, March 25th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Hundreds of jobs are going to be available for those who are looking for work, and it's going to be held at the Forest View Educational Center, 2121 South Gilbert Road in Arlington Heights. When going to that facility there's the Robert Morris College there, so you would go in the door one there where there's burgundy awning, and they ask, more important, that people park in parking lot C. Some of the people that are going to be there offering jobs, Advocate Healthcare, American College of Chest Physicians, Guardian Security, Home Depot, Illinois Pump Company, Illinois Tollway, Manor Care, Mariano's, North Shore University Health System, PACE, just to name a few, Speedway, TCF Bank, Walgreens. So these are some good opportunities for those who are looking for work to take advantage of the job fair that's coming up this Wednesday, again, over at Forest View High School. Good news came in officially that I want to share on the economic development end. The Illinois Department of Revenue released the calendar year for 2014 retail sales data just last week, and I'm happy to report that retail sales in the village of Wheeling increased by nearly $40 million from $558 million in 2013 to over $598 million in 2014. The restaurant category increased from $86 million to over $90 million in 2014. So we're seeing an uptick in our trends here, which I'm happy to announce, and it's all, when you hear those kind of numbers, those are good things. Just a couple of follow-through. Last week, along with 26 members of the Northwest Municipal Conference, mayors, presidents, and a couple of trustees were there as well. We traveled to Springfield. We were there from Tuesday through Thursday. I personally met with Governor Rauner along with 6 other, from the executive committee, 6 other mayors, and we had good dialogue, and he listened. He listened to our concerns. The big word down in Springfield is called sweep. The governor got in there, and we found 700 checkbooks, which are called funds. And out of the 700 funds that they wanted to sweep, 200 of them are being considered, one of them being our LGDF. There is a shortfall of $1.6 billion that will happen at the end of this month for the 2015 budget. So the governor is proposing, and we're going to see legislation this week coming up actually, to try to dig into that $1.6 billion out of the 200 funds. One of the things that disturbed me that, and again, this is an educational process for everybody, that sometimes it's perceived that we control the schools and the parks and the monies come to the village of Wheeling and we manage like Chicago. To my surprise, that was said to us, which was very easily corrected and immediately corrected to the governor and his staff. One of the immediate things that are going to be proposed is $27 million cut into the local government distributive fund, which equates to $2.25 per capita for 2015. In real dollars, we're probably looking around $80,000. Let me explain. The state budget starts July 1st. Our main concern right now, the 2016 budget. Our budget started January 1st. So revenues that we predict and plan for, yeah, it's an $80,000 hit on the remaining 2015 revenues that we're expected from the state, but also what's going to happen the second half of our budget based on their proposal for 2016, which is a huge scare.
Out of the 200 fund that they found, they think that there's this huge $100+ million of extra dollars in sales tax. Again, everything's a learning process. I think I've been around long enough and gone through enough budgets to understand that sales tax is always paid in arrears. We are receiving sales tax dollars this month for the end of 2014. So this big pot of money you think you may have could very easily be because you haven't distributed what is due to the communities. So everything's a learning process. I think we got the governors there. I really do. Because he understands, he's received thousands of resolutions from all the communities statewide, Democrat and Republican. I was fortunate to meet with all the senior legislators, senators, which was good. Joe, you're laughing, but I was down there. But it was both parties that are wondering what they need to do. And because they really don't know what's going to be presented to them. So I think, and I don't think, I know that it was good reaching out. Some of the big hitters that are going to get hit are road fund. Just this couple of weeks, they're going to knock off $97 million off the road fund, $80 million of Medicaid. There's a lot of concerns here regarding the short term. The big picture is the next 2-3 months and how we're going to take things. Reform is a huge thing. Some of the things that the governor has proposed to all of us is collective bargaining. Well, as again, explaining to the governor, we already have collective bargaining. Prevailing wage. Yeah, that's a help for us, but it's not going to make up almost $2 million if you get what you want regarding cutting half our LGDF. So, and property tax freeze, great. But like we explained, I was with the mayor from Barrington and a couple of non-home rule communities. They don't have the ability to impose a sales tax or this type of user tax without going out for referendum. It will literally, in years to come, short term, will bankrupt those towns. They really will. But under state statutes, you can't bankrupt a town. So where does the Village of Wheeling step in with, say, our neighbors to the south and Prospect Heights, Mount Prospect, Arlington Heights? You know, who helps what? We sat down in a couple of Senate committee meetings. Some of the things was talking about consolidation that the good senator to the north has put on the table that the state will not mandate or make us, but put out to the table if communities want to consolidate services. There's a lot of questions to that because communities around us are not like us. We have bedroom communities that are bedroom communities. We have a village like the Village of Wheeling or Arlington Heights or even Northbrook that have huge industrial bases, have high-rise buildings, and to do some type of consolidation, I don't see that to be even close to an even playing field and how that would happen. I think it would cost us the liability more than anything. So there's a lot of things out there, a lot of things that the governor has reached out. I've personally met twice and had a great conversation with his senior staff, which is good. And we got cell phone numbers and where we have an open dialogue. And if they got anything, we open up that dialogue where we can talk. And we were talking about it down there this week. This is a first that we really actually sat down with the governor. And he opened the door to his office and freely gave his senior staff to meet with all of us. Now, we're just the Northwest Municipal Conference, which is 46 communities around us. But downstate was down in there, South Side was there. I mean, there was a huge contingency of people down there. But we were talking, but boy, this is a first. Quinn wouldn't give you the time of day down there. I've been down there many times, never had a meeting with Quinn. He was never there. So it was good. I'm hoping that he understands it and he's learning as well. We met with, again, the senior leadership, Durkin, which was great, Rodonio, which was great, what's his name, not just Madigan, but Cullerton, which was good, and then the minority underneath that. So we had 2 full days of really knocking on doors and them giving us the time and sitting and understanding, because they wanted to understand it. But there's a lot of uncertainty going on right now, and we got a short-term fix coming up in the next couple of weeks, and I understand it. We all understand it. But this is a problem that's been going on for a long time, and it needs to get fixed. But I think it's the big picture, not just cut, without looking at the ramifications of what you're cutting here. So I think that message was clear based on follow-up reports from the Illinois Municipal League, which is very active down there. That kind of represents all the municipal leagues, all the COGs that are out there. I think the message is being sent. So I'll keep you guys posted. I'm getting emails. I'm sharing with the board. I shared some when I was down there. And I know we made some headlines here locally, because they were down there, the Herald was down there and stuff like that, that we had some good press on that, and it was good. It was good dialogue, no screaming, no yelling, it was, you know, it was one voice talking, and we all talked together collectively, and it was respectful, and I think that's how we're going to get things done. Nonpartisan, not Republican, not Democrat, all of us together as human beings to try to make things happen here. Because you know what? They got to get it. And I think they're starting to get it. Because when I got Republicans telling me, I don't know, well, guess what? We all need to know. We all need to work together. And I think that was the message that was sent last week. So I'm looking forward to some hopefully good news that's coming out in the next couple of months. So that's all I have. Thanks for you guys for not talking so I could talk a little longer. Anyway, we do have executive session this evening for pending probable and or imminent litigation. Entertain a motion to recess into executive session.
So move.
Second?
Motion by trustee Lang, second by trustee Kruger. Roll call.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes, we'll go into executive session about 10 after 8. How's that? Good night, everyone.